Hi there, my name's Arthur, and what I wanted to do today is walk you through how I use Metabase's groups and its various permissions that it grants you when you have a pro account to do basic identity access management, or IAM, within Metabase as an analytics engineer. This is something when I got started, I didn't really have a lot of resources on how people were using groups and permissions in ways to control access to PII. And it's something that as I've grown and kind of started to develop this, I have developed a kind of method of doing it and something that I wanted to show off here today. So with that being said, let's dive in. So what you're going to look at here is the landing page on your Metabase instance. For now, I'm using a test instance, and I'll kind of walk through and explain how my current organization uses it. Granted, I won't be showing any sensitive data. So first things first, you'll want to go into the admin settings here, and there's really two critical tabs when we're talking about groups and permissions. It's going to be in the Peoples tab and in the Permissions tab. Let's start with the Peoples tab here. And in here, you'll have obviously all of your people. And as you can see, I have my admin account here, and then I have my test account as well. When you go into groups, these are going to populate two that will come with every Metabase instance. And then within that, there are four that I've populated for our example here. Administrators, you can't change. That comes with Metabase. You will always have admins. And then all users is going to be the default group that everyone who exists in Metabase gets added to. I'll explain this a bit later. I like to use this to control actually very little permissions and access to Metabase in order to get a bit more flexibility and a bit more control. So for this example, what I've done here is I've populated two kinds of groups. I've populated database groups and I've populated functional groups. The database groups are there to control access to data and nothing else. Those will let you as an admin set who has access to which data sources. Are they accessing sandboxed data sources where there's row or column based permissioning applied, or simply just decline access to full tables wholesale? So for this example, we've done a full access where they have access to everything in the sample database, and then a limited access where we're preventing them access to PII. The functional groups, what I like to use these for is actually for keeping your Metabase instance clean. Let's say you have a KPI collection or maybe a company overview collection, one where you want the analytics team to maintain it, but you don't necessarily want every other user to have access to the ability to curate or overwrite questions in that collection. That's what those functional groups are really great for. It allows you to kind of cordon off whose sandboxes are where. So in this example, we'll have the ops and data team and we'll have the sales team, and then we'll have full and limited access. So moving over to permissions, looking at collections first. In our analytics, what I've done is I've withdrawn or withheld access for all users and then the two database permissions. This is because the assumption is that you will have at least one database group and you will have at least one functional group. And that will give you a combination of all the required permissions to use Metabase. So here, all users has no access to data and no access to curation on any collection. However, both the ops and data and the sales function can view everything in our analytics, which is the top level folder in Metabase. And then for our org overview, this might be our KPI section. This is where we don't want maybe our sales users coming in and messing with something that's been set up by our analytics team. Our ops and data team can curate, and our sales function can view. Moving over to the sales collection, this is a space where we want our sales team to be able to build. We want them to be able to set up their own reporting, maybe do some self-service analytics, maybe set up some dashboards for the individual sales team members. This is where we've given them curation access, and then our ops and data team has access as well to come in and help and support in any way that they can. Now, moving over to data, when you look at the databases here and you go to sample databases, this is what we're going to use as an example here. At the top level, you can see again, we've blocked access for all users, and then we have blocked access for the functional groups. Again, one more time, this is under the assumption that you'll have at least one functional group and at least one database access group to kind of give you the full picture of what you need. So here, the full access has access to every table in the database and can use the query builder and the native SQL queries as well. They also have access to download, and if I felt strongly enough and I wanted to turn this on, I'd allow maybe the analytics, the full access users to do table metadata management, or maybe even manage the database itself. However, you can see here the limited access database permission has granular access for creation and granular access for downloading. So what we've done is we've left most of these tables in the same format. We've given Query Builder access only to the limited access and kept access to everything else. However, our PII filled table, in this case people, what we've done is we've removed access to that table to create queries. We've left the view access on temporarily, but what I might do in another video is walk through how to set up a sandbox and allow limited access to a table. And then what I've done also as well is remove the no results. So what does this look like within Metabase? So hopping out of the admin settings, if I go to the database here and I go into sample database, this is going to show all 8 tables here. You'll see this people table. I'm able to click on it, able to open it and show off everything that is in here as well. Hopping over quickly to the other account. So this is Spike's account here, our sales rep. If we go into the database here, go into sample database, Spike can only see 7. Spike does not actually have access to people and won't be able to see that table. However, Spike would be able to see a question that maybe references or aggregates data off of that table. That being said, this is my kind of current understanding or kind of current way that I've been using the groups and permissions within Metabase to do some of this IAM access. And I'd love to hear more from you about what ways you've done this or maybe what techniques or approaches that you've seen used in the wild. Thank you very much. And once again, I'm Arthur. Thanks for watching.